Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
Tera, what are we doing today?
We are doing our first book in our book club. So if you haven't joined that, go to Amazon, join our book club. We are voting for books too, so you can put in your next book recommendation. But this book was The Trial of the Sun Queen. Trials of the Sun Queen.
No, I think it is
No,
singular.
it's the Sun Queen Trials. Wait, what is this book called?
No, no, you're
on.
right the first time. You're right the first time. Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha Tuli. In the book, they refer to the ball as the Sun Queen Trials. I was like, why wouldn't you just keep the word, like the convention, the same?
Okay,
like, consistent?
That's where I got it then. I was like, okay, wait, I swear I've heard this both ways.
No, it's like a nitpick too. I'm like, okay, there are 4 trials. Why is the title only Trial of the Sun Queen?
And are there generally only 4 trials? Like, because we hear other things in the book too. And I'm like, there are just so many like contradictions. Like, is this actually a thing?
The story was one of those things I was just like, I didn't know who to believe. I didn't know what was actually true for this world, or at least this kingdom or realm. So what did this book feel like? Did it remind you of anything that we've read before?
Well, there's some serious Throne of Glass, like with the trials, right?
Yes.
With her becoming the, what was it, like assassin for the king or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I also got very Hunger Games vibes a little bit because they're like out to get each other. And then there's also a book called The Selection.
I haven't read that one. I know what you're talking about.
It's really, like, I've read it. It's really, I thought it was cute. Like, it's not as smutty, but it is like more young adult teenage read.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of that too, because there was, they're all vying to be royalty.
I got asked a couple times, okay, how's Trial of the Sun Queen? I've seen it has a really pretty cover. Like, what's it about? And I'm like, well, it's channeling some major Throne of Glass vibes. And The Bachelor, oddly enough, like if The Bachelor had the brutality of like Fourth Wing, with the challenges, it just felt like that with me. Like all of the time that Atlas spends with each of the tributes, I was like, this is so Bachelor-y.
Well, and the fact that she asked him, like, have you kissed anybody else? Have you done anything with anybody else? And she's wondering that the whole time. Like, it's like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that a lot.
When he said he was, I was like, okay, you're losing brownie points with me, but we're jumping ahead.
Well, and he also, in that same moment, said that he was helping others, too. And I'm like, why are you fucking helping others? Like, when like, he has already picked her for, like, nefarious reasons. Why is he fucking helping other people? And again, we're jumping like way to the end, but there's something he does at the end that like, I'm like, well then why the fuck were you helping somebody else the whole time? But anyway.
This book, it starts off like Throne of Glass, like Selena Sardothian in these horrible, prison salt mine encampment thing. And Laura's pretty much in the same situation. You want to talk about how long she's been here and some of the other people that she's in with?
It's been like a decade, right? Like over a decade, like 12 years. So she's been in there. And she is in there with her brother, which nobody knows, and her sister, which nobody knows as her sister. They just think that they're close, right? And they are the longest people who have survived this prison. This prison is very much like the salt mines where you don't last very long. It is kind of a death camp, if you will. And the wardens, I would venture, are worse than those in the salt mines of Throne of Glass, because they are not only beating the prisoners, not only like putting them in extreme dangerous situations like the Hollow, where they're just left outside for monsters to get, but they are also like using their power to sexually assault the girls. And I don't remember any parts of Throne of Glass that was like a thing. I know that they beat one person to death, but like I don't remember it mentioning.
Yeah. There might have been something, like just a side comment, but yeah, it was really in your face with Trial of the Sun Queen. And the
Mhm.
warden in particular that Lore, sleeps with to get soap. I'm just like,
Ew.
major ick. Just
Yeah.
so disgusting.
Like,
And
she
her,
describes his sweat taste, and it's like, ugh.
like in her mouth, like talking about like the lingering taste in her mouth. I'm just like, oh my God, I don't need to know
And
this.
she did that for a bar of freaking soap. Like, that's how bad it is in there. Is that, like, she is, like, forced to be sexually assaulted just so she can have, like, a simple luxury of soap.
And then just for some other bitch, Jude, to steal that soap.
Yeah. And then for her to get, like, sent to, like, the little, like, the hollow because she retaliates against Jude for her theft.
The punishment that Lore got from the warden being sent to the hollow, it kind of reminded me of like, this place was like if Trunchbull ran a prison for adults, right? And I guess children too, because she was 10 when she got to this prison.
Was she 10? Like, I thought she was a toddler when she was sent to the prison.
She was 10, and her brother, being the oldest, was 17.
Okay.
And then Willow is just,
In between.
yeah, she's like an Elaine kind of figure, like very passive and sensitive. But yeah, so the hollow, all the references to that reminded me of being sent to the chokey, and everyone's like, oh God, no, don't send me to the chokey.
What? Sell me a lemon? You're heading for the chokey, young lady. Chokey? Teach you a lesson.
So she's in the hollow for like 2 weeks as her newest punishment for attacking Jude. And we get the first sense of her being something different because most people don't survive the hollow even for a day. And her previous, like, longest survival was like a week. And it's because there are monsters out there that, like, come and eat the people, or I'm guessing they eat the people in they're like puddles of blood left after these monsters get to them. And so she's out there and these monsters are like staying away from her. Like, they're coming close, but then like just stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get the sense that something's different about her that is making these monsters stop at that point. And then she's been in this thing for about a week and she is rescued and taken to another realm or another kingdom or whatever. And she hears a riot happening in the prison as she's being rescued. So she is clearly concerned about her brother and sister, Tristan and Willow, as she's being taken away.
And when she's taken from the Aurora realm and that king there who has very sinister reasons for keeping her, like there's so many secrets, and even some of the passing thoughts that Lore has while she's in the hollow, she's definitely hiding something. And so it just makes you wonder, okay, what do you know? It's very much like the Selena Sardothian vibes because Selena was hiding things and not thinking about things purposefully as well.
And I think it's the same thing that Selena was hiding.
Yeah,
like,
something very similar, right?
Yeah. So you get that sense throughout the whole book that, and spoiler alert, you don't actually find out. Which, like, drove me insane. I'm like, I'm halfway through this book and I have no answers to anything. And then I got to the end and I'm like, I still fucking have no answers to anything. So if you don't like cliffhangers, sorry, because this is very much like you don't learn anything. Except for who a few of the bad people are.
Which I think, I don't know if you read like the front matter, the author's note, she actually did mention, she was like, just hang in there. I know you're looking for answers. There are going to be more answers provided in like the second book and the book after that. So just hang in there. So she must have heard feedback about that because cliffhangers are very mixed bag, right? People either love them or hate them.
I'm fine with cliffhangers, but I want some information in the first book. Like, not just like more, ooh, who is this person's? So that's my one complaint.
No, very fair. And then this is the point where you start getting a lot of ACOTAR kind of stuff too, because of the different courts. You know, you have the daytime, the time of day courts, the seasonal courts. And then you have Feyre being kidnapped by Tamlin. So it very much feels that way with Lore waking up in the Sun Palace. And she has a elderly handmaiden who's just dressing her in all these fine clothes and feeding her and all of this stuff.
And a guard that is not liking her very much and is very gruff with her. Like, that's very Lucian vibes with Gabriel.
He was like a mix of Lucian and Kale, right?
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
dear Lord, yes.
I like me some Gabriel. It was so funny because Tara and I were texting back and forth, and Tara's just like, I really like Atlas. And I'm like, I mean, he definitely had that dreamy, hot vibe thing going on too at the beginning.
Yes, at the beginning he was. And then like Gabriel, like halfway through, he was annoying me. But then you get the sense that he doesn't have control of his own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of some things that you hear later on. And so I started feeling more for him because he's trying to do things, but he also doesn't have control.
Yes, it's not blind loyalty.
Yeah, there's some like bond that is keeping him just on a tether.
And to Gabe's credit as well, not only he's not turning a blind eye to Alice's motivations and behaviors, he calls him out on it repeatedly, but he also seems to genuinely have some kind of history with Atlas and care about him.
Mm-hmm.
But you do get the sense that he's stuck in this place and there will be very severe repercussions, like maybe even death if he doesn't follow what Atlas says.
Well, and he has seen firsthand what Alice will do, which again, jumping forward. So we find out about halfway, 75% of the book, that there has been a more recent trials, right? And Atlas, for whatever reason, decided he wasn't going to complete those trials. And he made Gabriel kill all of the contestants. And so that is the point where I was like, okay, so Atlas, not the nice dude that you have come to be told, basically. And then B, Gabriel doesn't have a say in what he's doing.
We also meet this character named Nadir, who has a twin sister named Amya, and then his captain of the guard, who's like his best friend, whose name is Male, I guess is how I'm going to say it. But that to me felt like Throne of Glass with Dorian and his father, because his father was a huge prick, very power hungry, very bad motivations. And Dorian was just kind of like shirking his responsibilities and just trying to undermine his father, you know, secretly. And you get that same sense from Nadir. Nadir, you almost don't trust his beginning because of how he's presented, right? He's like going out and doing all these things and he seems to have a very bad attitude. But as the story goes on, I was getting like kind of bat boy-ish, like Azrael vibes from Nadir.
Oh, I trusted Nadir from the beginning because like one of the very first things it says is that he didn't trust his dad. And Lore the whole time is saying how horrible the Aurora King is. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I trust you because like you're against the person that we've been told is like a horrible, horrible human being. Or Fae being.
After the king puts the first warden to death and he hires that other warden, and Nadir is like questioning him and then kills him in cold blood. I was like, okay. I love a Morley Gray kind of character.
And I could have just read this wrong, but like, did what the king did to the first warden sound very much like Darth Vader? Like with the chokehold, you know? Like,
yeah.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
That is what I was envisioning. And I'm like, maybe this isn't right.
You know he's a bad dude, but you don't know what his end game is. It's the thing like with Atlas. These are the questions that we have, and we didn't get any answers to.
Well, we did get at least somewhat of a little bit of an answer, and I think it was in the epilogue about, or maybe, no, it was during her, like when she was speaking to the mirror. Yes. And she was reliving the moment that her parents died, and we find out that it was the king that killed her parents. And then like sentenced her to life in prison because she may be of help for him later. But right now he needed her out of his way.
There's this theme of roses. Like it starts with the bar of soap that smelled like roses. And then they start talking about how this weird lost realm, this eighth realm of heart, like the heart queen, has a budding red rose still, like a single one. And then
But it wasn't budding before. Like everything was
No.
dead and it just started budding again. Like it was like, to me, it was like the true queen is back
Yes.
and free. And so now it's starting to like regrow. And it started with this one little rose. Like she's coming alive, basically. And like that was brought to Nadir's attention. And he was like,
I don't know if the book really went in depth explaining this, but they are sure to delineate Imperial Fae and then regular High Fae.
mhm.
I was getting Major Blood and Ash vibes from how they talk about ascending
Oh,
Fae
yes.
and mortals to become Imperial Fae. So I'm like, is this like some kind of Poppy parallel happening here with lore?
But then when Aprecia does ascend, because like, spoiler alert, the mirror picks her because the mirror says that this is not the right place for lore. And it calls her Your Majesty. So we do find out a few like little hints that she is in fact a queen of something, which like she has this locket around her neck with this blood red ruby, which they keep mentioning like the crown of the heart queen had rubies in it. And so like, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of like real leaping here to say that she is probably the queen of the heart, right? And that these men who are in power are wanting her for nefarious reasons to grow their own power, right? And we hear that something bad happened like generations ago, and that is why the last queen died, is they say she was grappling for power that wasn't hers, which I'm not really sure if she was or if somebody was like forcing her to, but either way, we don't know. But so I am going to go out on a limb here and say that she is the queen of the heart, or the heart queen, and these men are just using her. And I sent Sandra another little theory, which is that she is able to kind of mate or bond with whoever she wants. Like she has the power to choose hers and not be like bonded by the mirror or the like stick or whatever that one was. Like each of these little kingdoms have their like bonding, ascending, like what's the word for it? Like
Rituals,
activity,
ceremony.
rituals. Yeah. And so I have a feeling that she can do that without that. And I have a feeling that the others can too, but they like having like the like power to like control their people, because Atlas likes having the power of being able to just be like, nope, you're all dead, or jump through these hoops to do this, you know. But at the end, the mirror did say, no, this isn't the place for you, even though Atlas wanted her for him. So maybe not, because he was quite mad that she was not the one bonded to him. And then Aprecia, well deserved. She gets to be queen to a king that doesn't want her. Like that is like the epitome of fuck around and find out. Like you're being a bitch the whole time, and now you're stuck with this dude who doesn't want you.
I think he wants her in a very limited capacity, right? Like her body. He's definitely attracted to her, but Atlas is definitely one of those Imperial Fae that he feels like he's entitled to everything. And so they talk about how all of these tributes will fare after the trials are over, and they still become, you know, at Atlas's mercy. So if he wants to sleep with them, he
His
can
little
do
harem.
so. Yeah, it's just like, yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And it's just, no, he's gross.
Like, I'm interested to see what happens to Mauricia, or Maurici, however you say her name, and Halo, because when Lore was, you know, the front runner, which she still was until the very end, she had promised that Atlas would not be visiting anybody else's beds, right? Like, she would not stand for that. And so Marisi and Halo were like, oh, good. Like, we'll be let off because they are in a love with each other. And I am very interested in seeing how Aprecia does this because she doesn't like to share either. But I don't think she's going to hold the power over Atlas to make him stop.
Oh,
Whereas
no.
I think Lore could have.
Aprecia's an idiot. Like, it's one of those things like, oh, as soon as you marry him, he's going to change and flip on a dime and he's not going to do anything for you. He's charming at first.
And she is conceited and naive and like just a spoiled little brat enough to think that she has the power when she has zero power, like zero.
Yeah. She definitely had that Caltine Rompier complex for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, bitch, you got what you deserved. Hope you have fun with that.
Yeah. So fuck around and find out. You got it because nobody else wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, good job.
What did you think of Lore as a character? Did you like her?
For the most part. There were some times that I'm like, dear Lord, like all the, and I like smut as much as the next person, but all of the smutty scenes with him, like, it just felt off. And I'm like, how can you not, like, how are you missing all of these red flags? Because there are red flags. Like, this is a bullfight right here. Like, there are so many freaking red flags.
Lore annoyed me so much as a character in the beginning because she was just like, oh, I'm not pretty and I can't do this, and just whiny, whiny, whiny. She felt very juvenile to me. Mm-hmm. As it went on, she got better. Like, she got more of that confidence and that feistiness I was looking for. But I didn't know if it was because she just didn't really value herself from how she basically sold her body to get different things while she spent time in the prison, because it almost started feeling like that. And she actually does like have that thinking and openly accepts, I'm just going to do this so that I can accomplish, helping Willow and Tristan. So just one more, contract of
and
my
she's
body.
Like, at least I like this. Like, at least I'm getting something out of this one, not just like
Atlas
old man
isn't
sweat.
Nasty, sweaty warden. Ugh. So she wakes up in the Sun Realm, and they're just like, you get to compete for the hand in marriage to be the Sun Queen and be married to this handsome hunk of a guy, Atlas. And you're going to be in 4 trials. And so the first one is trivia. The second one is gauntlet. The third one is the Sun Queen trials ball. And then the last one is like an illusion-based one. And they were interesting trials to me.
Yeah. So the first one, she's not tied. She's on this rope over this like ocean, sea, whatever you want to call it. And they're asking them trivia. And every time you miss a question, your rope like plummets, right? And if you go into the water, if you fall off and you land in the water, there are these sea creatures that are like there to eat you, basically.
It was like extreme Bachelor. It's like, oh, you answered the question wrong.
Okay, did you get like not the death part, because like not the death part, but like what is it, like Amazing Race or like Real World, where they do those extreme like stay in the house, or like Big Brother, how like you have to do these things to stay in the house, and it's like hold on to this little thing for hours upon hours, right? Like that's what I was envisioning of this one, is like hold on to this rope. But she was helped a little bit because Atlas told her to wear something like sturdy or whatever, and gave her like a book about him, because this was a history of Ophelia, which is the realm, the Sun Court or whatever. And she's like, I fucking don't know anything about this because this is not my realm. And so she's like studying her ass off and still getting all of these questions wrong until the last one is about him and what his favorite color was. And she's like trying so hard to rack her brain, like, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? And she finally gets it, but it's too late. So she's dropped into the water. And this is again where you see like monsters not attacking her. Like they'd already eaten one person and they like come close to her, but then like go away. And then she puts one in a stranglehold and suffocates it, which is very interesting when she's like, do things that live in the water breathe? Like, is this doing any good? She's like, well,
Yeah.
its chest is moving, so maybe.
Punching it in the face.
And then her friend falls in. Who was that? Marisi?
Is it Marisi?
Or is it Halo? I think it might be Halo.
Halo was like the second to last trial.
Somebody that like has been somewhat nice to her and smiled at her falls in, and so she goes to save her.
Yes, Marisi.
So then she made her first friend by saving this chick. And then she pulls in Halo, who they are best friends from like childhood, and also they are, we find out later, in love with each other. And so they don't want to win this because they don't want to be married to the king, because then they can't be together. But they're great with like just becoming handmaidens and being able to live their life together.
Yes.
Which is what happens to any of the trial contestants who don't die and don't become bonded to the king. So they're like, we would like to land in like 2 through 4. 2 through 4.
The second trial ends up being the gauntlet, which that was very Fourth Wing-esque. Like, okay, I have to do these physical feats to get through this very, bladed obstacle course. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, she starts helping other people, and we see that Lore cares about, even if they're not her friend, like even if they're kind of bitchy to her, she will like go out on a limb and try to help them.
Yes. And she's also for like the people, like, because we also see her arguing with Atlas, and she stands her ground. Like, she's like, you can beat me, you can, be mad at me, you can throw me out, you can do whatever, but like, this isn't right, what you're doing to people. And he mentions something about, well, you were actually in prison and they're not. And she's like, do you honestly think that what they're in isn't a prison? Like, it is. They don't have the means to get out of where they are, and you are keeping them imprisoned. So she calls him out on his bullshit of, well, they're free. Like, no, they're not free. They don't have the ability to make it out. They are surviving at the best.
They make it seem, or the author, Nisha, she makes it seem like Atlas sees her side of things and agrees with her. Like, he just learned something just so, so new and fresh concept to him. But it's all a show. Like, he is such a snake. And then the next trial is kind of this exciting one, this ball. And this one was giving me like a little bit of the whole Throne of Glass Cinderella vibes. Like, I'm going to come to this ball and then I have to trick like this prince and take something from him type of thing.
Well, but they were told that they had a mark, and the mark was like a fae, right? And everybody else had like a normal fae. She is told that hers is the prince of the Aurora court or whatever. I'm calling it court. I don't know if they actually called it court, but and she is supposed to get his heirloom ring off of him. And so she is over here flirting with him, even though like he stands in her mind for everything she can't stand, right? Because that's what Atlas said, is he's just like his dad. And as we know, she is wanting to tear his dad limb from limb, right? For the murder of her parents. And so she is like, and he can even sense this. She is like acting like she likes him, but he can sense that like underlying like hatred coming from her. But he has a pull to her. And he's like, okay, let's see what this is. And she asks him about his ring. And he's like, no, it's just some like little like random thing. Like, no. And she figures out that Gabriel lied to her to make her lose this trial and be sent home. And so she is pissed off at him because she doesn't understand why he hates her so much. And he doesn't understand why Atlas wants her so bad. And so he is like in here trying to do his best to save Atlas from being bonded to a nobody, whereas Atlas knows that she's not a nobody.
Gabriel suspects that she is somebody too, right? So in a way, he's like trying to protect Atlas from making a horrible, horrible decision. It just makes you wonder, like, even the fact that Atlas's favorite color was red or crimson, I can't remember which one, and that's the color of the heart realm. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, in the past, is he a descendant or was it him or something that led to the downfall of this Heart Queen because of these antics that he is doing now?
Currently playing.
Yes. So it just makes you wonder. So I'll be honest with you, some of the interactions between Gabriel and Lore, like they're just my absolute favorite things in this book because they were so funny, especially after I forget which trial it is, but she's injured and he's just like dumping her into the
Into the
bathtub, just like just without any grace.
They are very much like a brother-sister like relationship. Like you can tell that they somewhat like each other, and like there's a point where he says like maybe a minuscule amount that I liked you. And like even that he says it in like some snarky little like like it's most likely more, but like he's tied to this bond. And so you get a very brother sister vibe off of them, like quarreling siblings, or at least I
Yes.
did. Like I can imagine my brother like dumping me, maybe not into bath because like he would not be around me because that's like weird, but like I can imagine him like, and he's done this like in a swimming pool or in like
Mhm.
a lake or whatever, and just like throwing me in,
Oh, I
like
fucking
just to
hate being
like
shoved into swimming pools. Yes.
yeah. And so like I got a very like he felt connected to her, but like didn't want to feel connected to her kind of vibe.
Even the scene at the Sun Queen's ball, whenever she's trying to find him, because he's the one that's supposed to give her a hint about who she's supposed to go after for their special object. And she finds him in the little back chamber going down on some guy. And she's just getting angrier and angrier and like banging on the door and just out there huffing and puffing. Like, it's such a sibling relationship.
Yes.
Such a sibling relationship.
And then so we're at this ball and she figures out that he lied to her, and so she is pissed. And so is Atlas, because he finds her dancing with his like nemesis, which is Nadir. And so he's pissed too. And this is where we really get the sense, like, to see this bond that he is not in control of his own actions sometimes, because he has been told not to tell anybody where she came from and to not tell anybody about her. And Nadir asks him and he's like, nope. But Nadir can tell he's lying. And so when he like stops her from like attacking him, he kind of pulls down the sleeve of her shirt that shows off her tattoo or her dress. And so
Brand.
Nadir
Mhm.
sees it and knows exactly who she is, right? And that was his way of bypassing Atlas saying, you cannot tell anybody about her. And so you see that there's some sort of like, I don't know, spell, whatever you want to call it, put on him, oath, whatever it might be, keeping him from doing certain things. And then Atlas throws him in prison because he did not appreciate the subtle, like trying to get her out of the trials prank that Gabriel played.
This was one of the first moments that I felt for and like deeply sympathized with Gabriel, because he is in such a dangerous position and he has to balance how he interfaces with Atlas with, trying to keep up this relation with Nadir, because you can tell from their exchange at the ball that Nadir and Gabriel are quite friendly. Like they're very amiable. And yeah.
Well, and there's a point that I think Nadir says something about what Atlas forced Gabriel to do the last trials. And he was like, well, at least we're making it through these. Are you going to have to do that again? And so you see that this, whatever Atlas holds on Gabriel, he was the one forced to kill the girls last time. And we had already found out that like something happened to them. They did not survive. And then we get a little bit more information that it was actually Gabriel that was forced to do it. And so, yes, this scene I did feel for him.
It's like after this scene, Atlas just uses seduction to try and control Lore. And so he like takes her off to his king's bedroom. And after some bumping and grinding, they don't do the deed. And they just end up like spooning through the night. But then she wakes up freezing in this cold ass little cave on a ledge, high up, with Apricia, Halo, and Tesney. Is it Tesney?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's Tesney.
Yeah.
And they sit on this ledge for 3 days before Lore puts it together what this really is. You want to talk about the
And
trial?
it's an illusion. And she puts this together because Atlas, again, in helping her, has shown her that this is his power, is the illusion. And this is very much like Hunger Games to me again, because that one little like spot that you can see like the like light shining or whatever, like the pixel, that is what she sees. And she's like, wait a fucking minute, I know what that is. And she's like, this is an illusion, we just gotta jump. And everybody's like, no. And she's like, I'll go
Bitch
first.
is crazy.
So she jumped. Yeah. So she jumped, and then everybody else followed her. And there was a moment that she's like, wait, this doesn't seem right. And she's like, did I just jump to my death? Because she is actually falling. And then she lands, and it was, in fact, an illusion.
I thought this banquet table, I thought it was poisoned. Like
I did too. I was like, don't eat this.
Yes,
don't eat this.
Apricia is about to get dead.
Yeah. And then we see, like, she sees somebody else run through. And she's like, wait, I recognize that person. And it's her brother, Tristan. And so the illusion has not stopped, basically. And so it's kind of like a 2-part trial. The first part is to like recognize that like you can escape. And then the second part is to keep safe the people that you love. Right? And so Halo finds Marici, however you say her name, dead. So she's automatically failed this one. And we don't know that this is an illusion right now. And so she is beside herself.
Yeah.
Like the love of her life died. And then we go and we find Tesney, who is trying to protect her little like 6-year-old sister or something like that, her little sister. And she doesn't succeed either. Like this little monster gets her. And I don't think we ever see who Apricia like is supposed to protect, but I'm gonna like think it's Apricia.
Yes, it's herself, 100%.
I don't think she cares about anybody but herself. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like she was protecting herself. And which she does succeed, right? She succeeds in that. And then Willow and Tristan are there for Lore. And so she succeeds in protecting them until they can make it through the door.
Yes.
Both Apricia and Lore are still in it because they succeeded in that. And the first, like, Atlas is like, you first, because I'm pretty sure you're my bonded, like, go. And that's when we see the mirror. And the mirror's like, no, your majesty, you're not meant to be here. And come back with the crown. Yes. And I will have a gift for you.
In my head, I was just like, I'm not sure I would want to come back here to this realm with this guy and kneel before you.
Yeah. But so Apricia like ascends and she becomes
and she's just
queen.
Like hair flip.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I flipped
your
my
second pick.
Yeah. Well, that's like, and he's making it obvious. He's like, no.
He's such a child, just throwing a tantrum.
How could you? And so he is not going to be like faithful to Apricia, but she's still over here like, I'm the queen. I'm the queen.
It's like only in title. You're going to have a very hard road ahead of you.
I got very like ancient queens that like, seduced the king, and so now are feeling like very good about themselves because they seduced the king away. And it's like, do you not realize that like he's going to leave you too, dumbass? Like if you got him by cheating, like he is not above cheating.
The other Bolin.
Yes.
As for my offenses, God knows them. And I remit them to God, beseeching him to have mercy on my soul.
And like, you got him by cheating. He is not above cheating. Like, you're not going to keep him for very long.
Or just like chopping your head off. You're done. When he gets tired of you. Bye.
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Like Catherine Howard in that case, like, she's like, oh, I've like wooed him, which, I mean, she was 17 years old. I don't know that, like, that was actually what happened. You know, he was, like, 50, so,
Yeah.
like, there was a power struggle. But, like, she's flitting around like she's, like, I mean, the queen, you know, and, like, can do whatever she wants, and then he's like, "Yep."
I was so proud of Lore whenever in front of all of the spectators and Atlas and Aprecia, she just, like, shits all over him, rejects the realm, rejects him, calls him a loser, essentially, and
Calls all of
yes.
them, like, animals.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like, a surprise Pikachu face.
Surprise
Like, how
Pikachu
could
face.
you?
I also like how she told Gabriel that Atlas never deserved him too, because it kind of sits with Gabriel. Like it kind of hits his heart. And this is the thing
The
that
heart
is so
queen.
interesting about Lore. Yes. Is all of these people just gravitate to her. Even the people that vehemently hate her, like Aprecia and Jude back at the prison, like people just gravitate to her. Like you get some, I was picking up on some sexual tension anyways between Gabriel as well. Like there's a little bit of it. But it's like whether it's Arrow back at the prison or Gabriel or Atlas or
the
Nadir.
people who came before Arrow.
Yes.
And the warden, like they're all drawn to her. Even some of the the girls, like they hate her. They think she's below them, but like then they're like, "Oh, well you're here for like." I think it's also like what she stands for. Maybe not necessarily like a magical pool, but once they started seeing that she wasn't all about herself and that she cared about others and she cared about the people and the place where she came from, which was the Umbra, they could sense that she was in it for good reasons and not just, I want to be queen. Like she couldn't care less about that.
There's some kind of magnetic force orbiting Lore that just draws these people to her for whatever reason. And we see this especially strong in Nadir at the Sun Queen's trial ball. Like every time they touch, it's like sparks flying between the two of them. And they talk about very briefly how there is such a thing as like true mates, right? And this is like incredibly rare. I'm like, okay, is this really rare or is this like SJM rare where every other couple is just like coupling up as mates?
And is it truly rare or have they bonded to people that they shouldn't be bonded to? And thus they can't find their mate. Like if you're out here like holding these trials because it makes you feel powerful, then are you able to find your mate because you've already bonded and ascended somebody else?
And I texted you this, but the whole bond idea, like picking who you bond with, reminded me of the Karanam thing from Throne of Glass. Because, and even like Crescent City, you see, sorry, you know, if no one's read those series, it's like a tiny little spoiler. It's not really a big plot spoiler, but the main characters there can kind of siphon off, like get more power, like increase their power pool from, you know, whoever they're mated with or bonded with. And so it kind of reminds me of that too. And so that's what, you know, kind of like you leads me to believe that that's why Atlas wants her in some way, shape or form.
Well, Atlas did mention that he can't be at his full power until he is bonded. And so I think that there is like a reason these people are wanting to be bonded earlier so that they can have their full power. But I think that there was a bigger reward if they had just waited and bonded with their true mates. Because I have a feeling that true mate bond is even more powerful than just being bonded.
I know that we're reading The Ever King for April, but a part of me also, I mean, I can wait. A part of me wants to read the next book too. Taylor, my sister, has already like blazed through, and she loves the series so much she already pre-ordered the third book that comes out like this summer. So she is like hooked. And so
I'm probably going to read the second book. So maybe we can do an extra episode because this was a very easy, quick read. So like I can definitely read this probably beginning of April, and we can still record for our April The Ever King. And maybe we can just put out a quick, like, what were your takes on this? Maybe not a synopsis of it, but like, what were your takes on it? Like extra episode for you guys.
That sounds good to me. So first week of May, we'll reconvene and talk about The Ever King. And then maybe about midway toward the last third of April, we'll come on and talk about, I don't know what the second book is called. I just know it's something, 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 Aurora King. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Wait, did we talk about what happens at the end of this?
Oh, no. The epilogue?
Yes, because she's in jail, like for several days, just rotting away after
Because he's pissed. Little child.
Mm-hmm. It's a female and a male show up all in black. One of them's wearing like a little black skirt, show up and like kidnap Lore, and then she wakes up back in her beloved Aurora realm.
So it was Male and Amia.
Yes.
Who kidnapped. So
I think it was Male, right?
Yeah. It was Male.
No,
it was definitely Male because he had the same sarcastic like personality that he does with Nadir.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am so interested in finding out more about Nadir because we just barely know anything.
Yeah.
We just know he hates his father.
And that he has some sort of pull to...
Yes, he has a pull to Lore, and he's shitty at putting wards back together.
Yes. Or he did that on purpose because, like, he is, like, a little shit to his dad.
Yes, he likes to poke the bear. Maybe he was just hankering for a confrontation.
Yeah. We also hear that Lore felt the pull to Nadir. I don't think we mentioned this. And she describes the pull to Atlas as kind of a surface level, like lust kind of a pull.
Yeah.
But she describes the pull to Nadir as like a boundless pull. Right?
Oh, yes. Hold that thought.
And so I thought that was very interesting when we're sitting here talking about like bonded versus true mates and things.
I have to look this up, okay, and read this because I'm looking this up because when this part was mentioned in the book, I was just like, okay, sold. That's my pick. There's a quote in the book, and it's Nadir's perspective, and it reads, "When he bonded to his queen, he would settle for nothing less than someone who set his blood on fire." And I was like, yes, that is going to be Lore, and they're just going to be this power couple, and I want to see it. I love that quote so much because it's like night and day how Atlas thinks of his relationship with whoever he's going to be with versus like Nadir, who wants an equal, right? Like a true equal.
Yeah. Atlas wants to own his bonded, whereas Nadir is like, I want her to be feisty as fuck and to like set me on fire.
Yes.
Like hold him accountable. Maybe because his dad didn't have somebody to hold him accountable, and maybe he like thinks that that's why his dad ended up the way he is. I'm just projecting. I don't know. But yeah, so I am very interested. Like I said, we didn't get any answers, and I want some freaking answers. I can't. So I will definitely be reading the second book to get some freaking answers. And
Nisha made some promises. We better get some in book 2.
Yes.
So
I am down to read book 2 so that we can figure out some answers. So go put some more recommendations. Like Sandra said, we are for the month of April reading The Ever King, which I think is going to be good. Like that was my vote. So I am excited that people were on my side on that. And then if you have any recommendations, go ahead and put them on there because we are looking for a month of May. I am going to give Sandra some recommendations for like forcing her to read because she did just force me to read 15 800-page books over last year, which I enjoyed. But I will have...
Tera really loves me.
I will have some recommendations for Sandra that she must read. So maybe some extra episodes with Sandra's take on the books I made her read. And then we still need a book club book. So go ahead and put in your recommendations and we will do another voting sometime soon, probably in later April. So you have plenty of time to put those recommendations in there. But hope you enjoyed this very weird synopsis of this book all over the place, and hope you will tune in for the next extra episode and the Ever King episode.
And I just want to make a comment real quick. Like, I can't articulate well enough how much I appreciate everyone who's joined the book club. There are over 140 people there now. And I feel like I am getting acquainted with so many authors and books I would
Mhm.
have never otherwise heard of. So keep the recommendations coming. And if you're not already subscribed to the Story Darlings YouTube channel, be sure to follow us on there. You know, if you have Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to drop a rating or review because those help little shows like ours so much. And we just appreciate you being here. Like, we have so much fun talking about this stuff.
I don't know if you can tell, but Sandra and I love a good story. And we get a little excited when there are parts that we like, so much so that we can't wait until like it's actually in the chronological order to talk about that surprise. I have went back on our little like thumbprints of our previous episodes, and like I met a new friend at a conference named Rachel, and she was looking at them with me, and she was like, "You look so excited!" Like that makes me want to listen to the podcast because you look so excited about what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, it's fun. Like it's fun to get to talk about these things with like your best friend, and like even if we don't have the same take on things, it's still fun to hear each other's side.
Smiling faces on Story Darlings, resting bitch face everywhere else.
Yes, yes.
But thank you so much for being on this little story journey with us. And until next time, we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.